This is our Parks Committee meeting. We'll do a call to order. Need a roll call. Jeff? Here. Daryl?
Here.
And myself here. I need to get an approval for our June 11th, 2026 minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we have a presentation we'll go ahead and deal with. And April, you want to give the name of the gentleman that's joining us?
Matt Leisure?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, you ready?
Sure.
Because I'm terrible with names. That's why I asked
Okay,
April.
yeah.
If anybody wants to know, that's why I'm terrible with names.
5 minutes.
There we go.
So I'm coming in a little cold, so I'll
jump
just
in
kind of
with-
talk a little bit about our firm, if that works, and then
Sure.
I understand you want to have a.
And I'll have a dialogue back
Okay,
and forth
okay.
on this, yes.
All right, so I'm Matt Leisure. I'm principal with Designing Local. We're a firm out of Columbus. We're landscape architecture, urban planning, public art, and arts and culture planning, and public engagement. So we do a number of different types of things around public sector planning and design work. We've worked on projects all over the country, but we've worked with Village of Lockbourne for I think about the last 4 or 5 years now on the memorial wall that is currently funded and is going to be constructed in likely in the spring. So that's fully out to bid. So we did all the planning around that, working with Mayor Christie in the village, and then worked with her committee to develop the design. And they provided the content, but we organized the content and showed on the memorial wall. And then we organized the bids for them, and that's now they now have a bidder and a contractor that's under contract. So that's all happening, and we've been part of that. I personally worked for another firm for about 15 years, and then I've worked for Designing Local as a principal for the last 8.5. So been around for over 20 years now in Columbus. So happy to talk through any of that. I brought some of our plans with us if you all want to take a peek. These are kind of our planning documents. So those are mostly concept level plans, and then we do full technical design also, which are construction plans. And I'm a licensed landscape architect, so we can lead projects and have engineers on our team or architects or whoever we need to complete a project. So we pick who we like to work with or who, municipality already has a relationship with, and we can work with teams in that way. So
Okay.
it really depends on the scope of the project. But, yeah.
I know with our parks, we have a newer West Side Park that has a certain layout, and there's still some more things we can do over there, but we have our main park here
Mhm.
that is definitely in need of some, need to be redone. Everything.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Daryl and I played on that playground back when we were kids. So
50
we'll
years
just-
ago.
We'll just say that.
Gotcha.
And speaking with Bert, we definitely need somebody to come in and lead us in a direction to do a layout for us, so we
Right.
can have the design for different grants that we may want in the future, and also just get an idea to get this thing moving so we can act
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
You have anything on this, Jeff?
I think that's the general. That's I think where we are. I will have some questions, but I don't. I'll wait until.
Okay. So basically, with this layout, we have certain amount of square footage over here in this main park, and we may try to bump out and use more. We have 2 main events during the year. We have the Asheville 4th of July, and that has a certain layout, and then we have a Viking Fest that has a certain layout. But we have a lot of space that for all the other 50 weeks out of the year, we definitely want to take advantage of and get some useful equipment and ideas and things for the kids in this area that they can take advantage of.
Okay.
So that's kind of the goal that we're looking at. And then we're looking for somebody to steer us in the right direction on what we need. I know we're wanting it to be somewhere of the new thing is 0 to 99. We want the surface to be accessible to all. And
Okay.
we definitely want to have a couple of things in there for wheelchair accessibility.
Right.
And of course the autism and things of that nature. But we want it to park where everybody can come take advantage of it, from the elderly to the young and so on.
Okay. Gotcha. So you started
Well, there's actually a grant out there that unfortunately the deadline's September 17th.
Okay.
That they're matching. I believe it's up to $25,000, and I believe we can do demolition with that grant. I have to triple check and look at that again.
Okay.
But again, I mean, we're going to want something from the nuts and bolts from A to Z.
Okay.
And,
Gotcha.
and we have impact dollars that we need, that we can use. We got to figure out where we're going to put those dollars. Westside Park over here, but eventually this park needs updated. No matter how we do it, it needs updated.
Gotcha. Okay. So are you looking for a scope of work and a process and all of those?
Yes,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I again, I don't know anything about the construction of the playground, so I would definitely look for somebody to
Right.
grab us by the hand and lead us through the process.
Okay.
You just want to tear everything out and start from scratch. And there's
Yeah.
nothing that we want to keep.
And we got to be careful with the impact dollars because we can't replace with impact dollars. We can only improve. So we got to work around that angle as well to make sure we get the most out of our impact dollars.
Okay. What are your impact dollars? Is that your funding or is okay. All right. Yeah. So that's village money.
Yes, village money through
Okay.
impact dollars. Yes.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways to do this. One is just like we're gonna focus on the playground and that's it, and kind of just move that along as one thing. A lot of our projects will look at the entire park and create a master plan for the whole property, and then pick projects out of that to move forward into design and construction. So it really depends on what you want, or you can do kind of both of those at the same time potentially, but it just depends on funding and
Yeah,
So-
I think to look at the whole park, because the whole park could definitely use
Right.
a nice kickstart.
okay.
We're talking about benches around where people can come, stretch out, sit, all throughout the park.
Right.
Let's see.
I do know that I have a gentleman with the Kiwanis that wants to talk to this committee. The Kiwanis have $25,000 that they would like to put towards a splash pad in the village.
Okay.
With that being said, we got to talk amongst ourselves and figure out if that's something we want to entertain and help them spend their dollars if they so choose.
Right.
So I know I got to get with Bert, get with Mayor on that and discuss that.
Has that been defined, or that's something you just want to explore?
Explore and adding to the project. I mean, if they have $25,000 that they want to earmark towards a splash pad, that's something that we need to discuss if that's something we want to entertain, and then go forward with that.
Well, and would your firm have expertise in frankly what it takes to maintain a splash pad?
So we don't do maintenance,
Okay.
but we have, like the supplier of the splash pad would have all of that information. So typically, like there's two different types of splash pads generally. There's the ones that have a recirculating system and it's basically a swimming pool almost. And then there's splash pads that just use municipal water, which can be kind of wasteful in a certain
Yes.
way, but there's a lot less maintenance because you don't have all the equipment.
Fresh water.
Right, and you're not chlorinating things and all that.
So
So,
you have to weigh
so-
each one.
right. So most municipalities go towards the municipal water route just because it's just a lot less maintenance. So especially if you're not paying for the water yourself, like some municipalities you have to back charge. There's different departments and all that stuff. But if you can work out a deal internally, then it's really not a cost for the water generally. So that's where most places land is like we'll just go the municipal route.
perfect opportunity, we're building a new water plant, so now would be the opportunity time to, if there's gonna be something to that, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a bit clear on that corner in there, so.
Well, we're on a 2-year basis right now for the water plant to be done. So we want to get the park up and running, but we have some time to do it and do it right.
Right.
To hopefully time the new park to be done exactly when the water plant's being done, so we can use the land properly, because they're going to be using some of this park for storage and
Yeah.
everything else. So it'll be tough to design around that. I mean, we can design it, but just build it.
Right.
And I think going back to Ron, to your earlier point, I agree. And if I can put my planning committee hat on for a second, I do think it makes sense for us to try and look at holistically the whole park, understanding that, or at least I'm hypothesizing that the playground would be obviously #1 priority. But I think what we want to avoid is piecemealing things together and then realizing 2 years from now, oh, we wanted to do this thing, but we got to rip out half the playground in order to do that. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
sort of
Come up
you know,
with a
stage
vision.
gate these things.
That's where the conceptual plans come together.
Come
Yeah.
up with a vision. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the full park, not just the playground, right?
Right.
And eventually tie in the parks together. There's things we could do between one park and the other to have stations where people can walk between the parks and things of that nature, hopefully, down the road.
The
Yep.
zip line.
Time it, yeah, zip line.
You are looking at both.
We are looking at both parks. I definitely want to do the conceptual thing for the West Park. It started, but there's how many more acres are over there, Bert?
About 11, 12 acres over there that's basically just fairground.
And that come up with an idea to put some things over there as well. And again, the 0 to 99 area plus others. It just the whole 11 acres. Make sure that we get the most bang for the buck out of it.
And can I ask on the design or just the process, what have you seen as best practice as far as getting input from the community? Because we had talked about before wanting to have a 0 to 99 park, but getting input from the public so that they feel like they have a voice as we're developing this. And it essentially requirements gathering, right, is what it boils down to at the end of the day. What are the requirements that need to go into this design that we need to bid out? So what have you found as best practice for incorporating that voice of the community?
Yeah, good question. So generally, like almost all of our projects have some form of public engagement. So it's just the scale. Is it a huge outreach effort, or is it very focused? And that changes how we develop our fee, right? So
Sure.
So generally, if we're doing a park master plan, we would have some sort of steering committee. We would have a client team, and the client team may be like this group, but those are folks that we would talk to every other week and just to keep things moving. And then we would have typically at least 2 public open houses or public meetings. The first one is usually kind of a listening session, more of like, what do you want in this park? Kind of what you're talking about, like,
Yep.
do you want, how are the ball fields working? Do you want these like different kinds? Is what we have here not the right mix of stuff? Are we missing a whole user group that we want to accommodate? So we want to hear all those things before we develop the design program, which is the whole list of things that we want to incorporate into the plan. So that first meeting is really important to hear all those things. Sometimes you hear what you expect, and other times it's like, oh, there's something we missed here, right? Or there's some underlying thing in the community that maybe you all have heard, but we haven't as a design team that we would want to confirm.
Yep.
So that's a pretty typical part of the process. Then we would have a second open house. We like open houses. It's not really presentation format. It's like people come in and talk to us. We get to interact more one-on-one. That meeting we would start to show some of the concepts and get feedback on what we're
outside group that they're grassroots. They're starting up, and they had big ambitions,
Okay.
but they've scaled themselves back to start. They're going to start doing a few other things minor, but we do have a group of community members that may want to come in and help identify some of the needs.
Okay.
That'd be great
Yeah.
for
So,
input.
so we'll
Yeah.
definitely reach out to them on financing for this. As far as we come up with a big design, come up with this, and say it has X dollars. We have impact fees that we need to spend. We have impact fees over 1-2 years, and then we talk about grants. What does that process look like as far as in typical projects you've worked with, from design to finance to completion? How does that look?
Right, in terms of time frame. and
Time
all-
frame, yeah.
Yeah. So with like Lockbourne, for example, so we developed a concept for them, and that was, I think, 2021. That was like 5 years ago, and we got it to a point where we could produce a rendering and a scope of work, and like a budget basically, and then that was submitted by Mayor Christie to the state capital budget. So they got about half the money for that project through the capital budget, and then she's been fundraising through other channels to get the remainder of the money. And she got it's pretty amazing. She got construction companies to donate a lot of the pavement, and she's gonna get someone to donate the electrical stuff, and like so she's done a lot of work like that. We still have to design it to get a building permit. So in that case, like we have an electrical engineer on our team to do a electrical plan and lighting layout, and then we designed the wall system to have we designed the concept for it structurally, so that the contractor could get a structural drawing for that. But depending on the project, we, as a design team, might have all the sub-consultants under us. If it's a more complicated project, like, if we're doing a shelter and a parking lot and a stormwater basin and a bunch of other things, then we might have 3 or 4 or 5 consultants on our team to do that kind of project. So it just depends on the complexity and the scale of what we're looking at. But that's one example. So the Orem project, which you have sitting up there somewhere.
Yep. Through here.
So that's a giant master plan, just for context. So that's Orem, Utah, which is like 100,000 people in the municipality. It's a really fast-growing city, Salt Lake City. So that project, we did a master plan for the whole park that's there, and then we broke it down into smaller pieces, and then put cost estimates to those pieces. So it was like a phased implementation thing. And so each of those would have its own implementation process, which is what we could look at here too. So you're not, taking the entire park offline to do construction. If you're doing a significant face, like you can do bits and pieces at a time.
So we have 11 acres on the west side. How many acres is this park?
About
This over here is about 10 acres.
Yep.
Of the scope that we're looking at. So definitely, in the grand scheme of things, somewhere down the road, some of the buildings get replaced, some of the other things could happen. So it's definitely a larger project. Okay.
No, designing local. Was your firm strictly focused on design and planning, or do you also do implementation? Okay.
Well, yeah. So we do the design planning part of the process. So we can produce the books like that, which you can use for fundraising, grant applications, and things like that. And then we can take it all the way through to construction, depending on the project type. So if it's a park project, we can lead that. We can have engineers on our team if we need them, and then we can do construction drawings that you all put out the bid, and then bids come in and we participate in the that's part of the deal consulting. So it just depends on how it goes.
So you will, if I'm hearing correctly, you will do the actual building and implementing, or you will do
We
site
don't do any
overseeing.
construction.
Okay, so you don't do construction, but you could help us with a bid package. Let me ask you this: do you have preferred vendors or partnerships with playground? For example, I'll just go with playground
Right.
equipment manufacturers,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, so like so we work with vendors like that all the time. Some playground suppliers can do their own construction. So
Mhm.
we would basically like you would just purchase it from them and they would install it, and we could recommend the type and whatever. But that's like a very small strategic project. So
Yeah.
they wouldn't necessarily be doing a lot of other things in the park
Yeah.
in that scenario, but you could do the project that way potentially.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we're doing the memorial wall at Lockport. The contractor's just building that wall.
Yeah.
They're not doing any other site work at all, other than repairing the site for what. So it just depends. Like that's a pretty efficient way to do that kind of project. Um, if we were doing a lot more construction scope, then we would probably have a general contractor, and they would manage, purchasing all the equipment, doing the installation, so on and so forth. And there's certain levels of projects that you would get a general contractor interested in, right? So
Mhm.
you're starting to get to
Yeah.
decent
Right.
sized project like $500,000 plus in construction to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
But it sounds like you're vendor agnostic. You work with a lot of these vendors, but it's not
Yeah.
like, hey, we highly, strongly recommend this one vendor.
we we
Yeah.
have our opinions, but
Sure.
but there are lots of different vendors out there, and there's they have a lot of different price points that they work at. So
Yep.
we would love to get the best possible playground manufacturer to do like your project, but they might be the most expensive too. So
Right.
it's kind of figuring out the right solution.
So for your consulting and your design, is it based on acreage? Is it based on detail? Is it a combination of both?
It's kind of all of the above. So like for example, if you said we have a $500,000 construction budget, just as a hypothetical, our design fees, we're kind of like architects. It's like a percentage of construction, roughly, for a rule of thumb of what our fee would be. For more of a master plan, it's really the scope. How much engagement are we doing? Are we doing like 7 open houses or 2? There's just a lot of difference in time for us.
Time.
Yeah. So we can tailor that, but it just depends on the project. So most like depending on the size of you have 2 parks, they're about the same size. So that's not a giant parks planning effort compared to other cities that might have like 20 parks or something. So typically, like if you look at RFPs for parks plans for a citywide parks plan, they might be anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 just for planning. But that's because they have a lot of parks and a giant, outreach, and the scope gets pretty large. And we might need to have like 2 other sub-consultants under our team to meet the scope. So that's how we have to kind of look at the scope and then put fees to it, which we could work with you on, right? So that's just a conversation we have. Like typically we would take a stab at a draft scope, say, is this kind of what you all are thinking? This is about how many hours this would be, and then if that doesn't meet your budget, we can trim some stuff out if we need to.
Okay. So if this committee decides that we want to recommend, say, your company to do this scope, what does that look like as far as contractually with the village?
So we would develop a scope of work, and then we have that would be like an attachment to a contract. So you might have your own contract that we would put our scope into, and then we would sign that, or we have our own contract, and our scope of work would be
two over there. Okay.
Yeah, so we would be a vendor for the village, yeah.
Like you said, in 2021, when you started on the Lockhorn project, how many acreages is that memorial wall?
That's a really small park. So that's like, I don't know, a quarter acre. It's like
Mhm.
it used to be a residential lot.
Is that down there, the flood wall?
It's, if you know where the village hall is, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the old school that the village owns now, it's
It's right there in that, where that
right,
pie shape.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that was a very small project, but the wall itself is a $300,000 project. So it's 12 4-foot wide by 7 feet tall granite panels that are engraved. So you know it's high quality material, and it's a pretty nice project.
And the funding is what is mainly taking the amount of time,
Well, they were
getting
yes,
it
them
getting it
finding
figured
the,
out.
the
Yes.
dollars. Yes.
Finding the dollars to help
Yeah.
pay for that.
Yeah, and you know we can move a lot faster than that if the money's there. So like the Appalachian Community Grant Program, which is ARPA fund, that's ARPA money that the state put into the Appalachian counties. That has a deadline of October 2026. So we started design on like giant projects in summer of 2024. So 2 years from doing design development, or like basically 30% design through construction drawings and construction. That's very fast, like really to so our biggest project is a $10 million riverfront park in Meigs County. So that was a very fast process to go through all the permitting and all the things that we need to do. So that's the other end of the spectrum. If the dollars are there, we have a big deadline. So like typically it takes a relatively simple project to install, like a splash pad. That construction could probably happen, depending on the vendor, in months, not like a year. But if you're reconstructing a decent sized park, you're looking at better part of a year for construction of something like that. And for us to design it all the way through, take at least 6 months, if not up to a year, to go through all the steps and get all the permits and get it out to bid and all that kind of stuff. So if the money's there, it's like really it's a couple year process to go through design and construction, which is pretty fast on a larger project. The simpler project is more surgical. Yeah.
Anything else you got, Daryl?
None for me.
Anything from Bert or April?
Just wondering how we can basically get a cost at a
Yeah.
conceptual plan. We don't have a base idea of anything.
Right.
If we can get a conceptual plan and at least get a starting point, then we can know how to go. But right now, I don't know if anybody has this. Somebody's got something in their software at home or left in a drawing, an idea of what path to pull.
Right. So a couple questions for me. Have you guys done any recent surveys or any like site surveys or any engineering drawings that are available that
Not to my knowledge.
okay, and that's okay. Yeah.
I know that the outside group that we were talking with, they had a couple playground people come and just were looking at the square footage we have over here to come up with a conceptual idea for the 0 to 99. But I don't think anything's on paper as
Okay.
far as the square footage and any ideas from there.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like
I can check with a village engineer. He may have something on those plats of property as far as
Right.
actual
yeah.
footage of what have you, layout of what's there.
Yeah, we can work with like county data, and there's aerial photographs and topography and other things that we can get. But that's important for us to start a drawing with, is like we kind of have to do a little legwork to get a starting point just for what's out there.
Yeah, so what would be the starting, what would the first thing we'd do? I mean,
Right.
just look to see the land we have to develop, or
Yeah.
be the first things that we got to work with first?
Yeah. So like if in our scope, we would have like a discovery phase or a analysis phase where we would get all the information we can, whatever's available, and we wouldn't do a survey like that would be a construction level thing. So we would just try to get as much information as we can from you all and from the county and the state and other. So the ODOT have ODNR, they all have base mapping and things that we can use. And then we would try to get a sense from you all of like the condition of utilities and other things, which would be expensive in the construction phase to deal with, right? So if you just install all new utilities and we don't have any costs for any of those things, then that becomes a simpler project later. But if you have like we need to add a lot more power out here to get to service the plan that we came up with, then that would be a cost that we would need to figure out in the planning process. So we just try to get as much as we could. And then we would look at like, are there any wetlands or other random things that we need to be aware of, floodplains and all that kind of stuff, like things that would cause permitting issues. I don't think that's the case
That'll
here.
be good for the engineer to point out.
Right.
And in the scope of things, and I'm just mentioning this as my own personal thoughts, we do have those two events that are held here, the Viking and the fourth, mainly the fourth.
Yeah.
How we can improve the area to help improve that in those visions, and how will that improve just the people coming and enjoying the park? Because again, 50 other weeks, we want that land to be used very wisely for all of everybody in
Right.
the village.
Yeah.
So then, is it fair to say that all you need to get started with a scope of work, a directional estimate is, for example, the park here, like this is our park, this is our current playground footprint. We're envisioning, I don't know, mark off, let's chalk it off. This is generally the area we have to play with for a playground.
Right.
But we want to come up with a plan for this whole 10 acres.
Right.
And then,
Fences, fence,
Right.
yeah,
everything to make it stand out and shine.
then you would give us an estimate of, okay, to design all that, we think it's going to take this many hours with this many engineers. And then we would start to go get public input after that into what we actually need as a requirement.
Yeah. So like to just do a master plan, right? Like that's our first step that we're talking about. So that would be us working with you to get base information, doing the engagement process, having our own program that you're kind of talking about,
Mhm.
and then we would come up with a master plan drawing and a list of implementation elements.
Yeah.
And that would have a relatively high level of detail. It wouldn't like get into construction stuff
Yep.
necessarily, but we would say, okay, to do this quarter of the park, that project would be roughly X dollars, and then you can start to think about phasing that out.
Yeah.
So like some of these, like the Orem project that you have there, that's like a 20-year plan, right?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
big
Huge.
vision, right?
Yeah.
So you can start to plan out your capital budget that way.
Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot, so you can say you don't know as a financer here, but for a village of our size, for space like this, just kind of, I think we would want 0 to 99 type of park, obviously, potentially looking at more benches and I think the bike and walk path. Like, do you have an order of magnitude of what a playground type of plan or versus a master plan, just directional estimate of what we're, as far as the planning process, what that would cost? If you don't know, that's a financer, but
Yeah, we would. So we would work with you all. But
it depends, of course.
Yeah, like I said, like to do like a master plan level for both, I would just guess that'd be like 30 to 50,000 something. Like
Okay.
that's me not.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Back in the napkin, got it.
Yes, if we were to just say like do a sketch of this part of the park, figure out what the ideal splash pad program is, right? Like we want these features and to work with you. That's a lot smaller of a
that's helpful. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like,
So the, so the,
quarter
the
of a
bulk
million.
of the,
Well,
the bulk of the master plan would be the engagement.
Yeah.
Right, like, it takes us a while to get drawings together, that's the other part of it.
Sure.
So then the engagement time is significant, like to plan a meeting and do the meeting and prepare all the materials, that's, it's a fair amount of hours for us. And then we would develop the graphics at the end that you all would want to use to get money, right? So,
Yeah.
like, we would want some kind of perspective rendering and a site plan and have really nice materials and a good narrative, so you can submit that to the state or wherever you're trying to get funding. Say, look at the plan we did, we have engagement, public's behind this, and here we have a really nice looking document, we want to do this part.
Right.
Which is what we did for the Department of Development, like working with all the different communities on the Appalachian Grant Program.
Which I think for this, with the West Side Park and then with here, I think we definitely want a grand scope of what the park could be.
Right.
And especially for the west side, we're looking to put some nice restrooms and things over there, but we just don't want to plop them down. We want to plop them down with a vision of what are we
Yes.
going to use the rest of the park for, so it
Right.
all flows.
Right.
And then the same thing for this park, and then we get the grand scope, but now we're just going to focus on this park first.
Right.
And then not piecemeal the plans, but maybe piecemeal the work.
Right.
Yeah. Stage gates, phases. Yeah.
Yeah, to build a whole park in one shot is pretty unusual unless
Yeah.
it's
Be
like part of
disruptive
your,
too.
we're adding this whole new development that's this part of the city, and we're gonna negotiate with the developer to do the public park. Like that's the only other scenario where you see
Mhm.
like a whole brand new park being built. Unless you get a really great grant or something. So
Mhm.
like the Appalachian projects that we were working on there, like one time, here's all the money, go do it right now. That's
Yeah.
pretty unusual. So that was the deal with
Right,
that.
that is there.
And that's definitely something that we will do community input,
Right.
because I'm 61. I don't have little ones. Some people in our group has some little ones, but to find out exactly what they want in a park
Right.
and give them what they want.
Right.
So we definitely do some input there. Accessibility,
Yes.
accessibility for the handicapped,
Yeah.
accessibility for the elderly, and I think that's definitely the path we want to go.
And I would think we might even start with, if we used your firm, having a meeting with the men's club and accessible communities to start, so we can make sure that we're all on the same page, and then have some of that broader, so they can help us get a starting point, right?
Yes.
And then take that to the broader community for input on what they would like to see, and then refine that into a,
Because we have some outstanding groups in the village, as far as the men's
Yeah.
club, the women's club, the Kiwanis, and everything else. If we can get their input and get some buyback from
Mhm.
them, they can definitely help with raising some funds
Right. Right.
and getting the word out,
and getting
getting people
the word out.
engaged and
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, and sometimes you kind of tee up a project for them to fund or to help to fund, right?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
if they're a stakeholder in the process, then they feel a lot more engaged, and hopefully they're a champion for implementing the plan, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the goal is to build support. So, and public engagement is important because
we'll talk and then we'll see what we want to bring up in front of the committee of the whole, bring up to everybody and go from there. But I really appreciate you coming here because that's definitely what we're looking for. We're looking for some guidance and direction
Right.
for the scope. We know we want to do it. We
Right.
just need some help getting the vision out there.
Okay. Do you want me to take a stab at putting a draft scope together, or do you want to? I'm happy to do that. We do that. So typically, like to do a parks plan, we would respond to an RFP. So we're doing that anyway. So we're happy to start a scope if we want to continue that.
What does that entail money wise?
Well, that's
That's just a
Yeah, that's
courtesy
just-
thing. I just
yeah.
want to make sure.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
So we're paying to put a quote
Yes.
together.
No.
So that's
$500
what-
grand.
Yeah.
I
I wish that's how it worked. I'd be
Yes.
making a lot of money
Yes.
that way.
I just wanted to make sure. Yes, please do.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you just communicate with Bert,
Okay.
and then we'll go from there. I'll communicate with Bert, and once we get the scope, definitely both parks. Bert will share with you the acreage of both,
Okay.
and we can go from there. And then who knows, we might need some help for the whole village as far as updating some things for people to use around, even on our regular streets and sidewalks.
Sure. Yeah, and that can be part of a parks plan where you're looking at parks and open space, not just like the actual
Mhm.
bounded park. So, that's about trails and other connections, all those types of things.
Sounds good.
Sidewalks.
Yes.
I'm happy I'm on a sidewalk across town, maybe a bike path.
Yeah.
Cause this road out here is the busiest road in Nashville.
Okay.
I mean, if people gotta walk down the street, ride their bikes down the street, there's no place to go. I mean,
Right. So like
It's
one
really the
corridor
safety.
could be your connection
Yeah.
between the two parks.
yeah.
Well, and we
But
have
they're
we
both
have a lot of
connected by
construction.
Station Street.
We got a lot of construction going on with our infrastructure being done too. So hopefully by the time that gets done in 6 months, Bert?
6 years. 6 years.
But as soon as everything gets done, the goal is to have curbs and sidewalks throughout the village. Correct, Bert?
That's it's about
That's the
30.
goal.
It's about 30
That's the
years.
goal.
As soon as they're all sidewalk in front of the house.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Well, yes, please do.
Okay, we'll do. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Likewise.
Appreciate it. Yep. All right.
It's coming down.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
Look forward to doing business with you.
All right.
We get this new part done by first of the year, huh?
Well, gentlemen, you have anything to say out here?
I'm here with the Kiwanis Club, so I was just
Oh,
here
okay.
listening. And,
Well,
yeah,
Okay. Was I accurate in the?
I do not know about the money piece, so
Okay.
fairly new to the Kiwanis Club, so
Oh, okay.
just trying to get involved and listen.
Mr. Mabe is the one that mentioned to
Right,
me
yeah.
about that to have the funds, and apparently there's another Kiwanis in some northeast Ohio that put in a splash pad.
Yes. and
So they're getting a lot of
Cyrus.
information on that to make sure that if they implement one here, they do it the correct way and not the trial and error way.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks for
yeah.
coming.
Come back.
Yeah. So I think what I'll do is I'll reach out to Mr. Mabe and have him come and either speak to the council as a whole to mention on behalf of the Kiwanis that they would like to work with us on that, and then we can go from there.
I think that makes sense. Yep.
Thank you, Matt. I kind of skipped down to the presentation first. Any old business?
I don't think so.
No. We covered the new business.
I'm thinking the impact fees, we could upgrade the tennis court and the gazebo.
I don't think you can use them to upgrade though.
How much?
No,
It's gotta be
it's all
brand
new.
new.
It's got to be for brand new.
Oh, it's
Brand
brand
new.
new.
Can't rip and
Yeah.
replace.
Can't rip and replace. And then I think you've given us the dollars amount that we've had there before that's out there in the impact fees. And they're there. And I know we want to, unfortunately, be rip and replace here to replace the park, the playgrounds and things. But there's a lot of things we can use the impact fees for is at the West Side Park because it's a clean slate. It's all just acreage. So we think about it wisely. We can use the impact fees there and think grants over here and any other fees we can gather along the way for this park over here.
So do we have a snapshot of what we have available as we're putting in grant applications for what we could?
Talking about dollar wise, or
For
talking about?
over here,
Yes.
not really. I mean,
Okay.
impact fee, yeah, I can tell you where we have an impact fee.
'Cause I think one of the things that, and maybe this is old business, so I apologize, but I think one of the things we need to get a handle on is we have lots of things that we want to do and lots of ideas that come to us, but we almost need like a strategic planning session, right? Thinking about in the corporate world, what are all the projects that we want to do, but how much budget do we have and where's the line? You know, what's above the line, what's below the line? Kind of hard to do that if we don't have a snapshot of where we're at, right? So I think that's something that we'll want to explore. And I know impact fees versus what we have available here makes it more complicated, but I think that is something that we'll want to get, because as we put these grant applications in, they're going to want to know what can you contribute to it, right? And that's
And that's what I've been getting at all along, is they want a plan too, they
They
want
do.
something to look at and say, what are you doing?
right.
And us scratching something out on a napkin just ain't gonna get it.
So, in
But I agree with you. My other point with that though too is we also want to have the public's input on what the
Oh,
requirements
100%.
are, because we could put a drawing in, but if it doesn't meet what the community needs, then what did we accomplish, right?
I
So-
100% agree that
so there's going to be
I think
some,
needs to contribute.
there's going to be some grants that's going to come and go by the wayside until we get there. So
Yeah, we
in
need to
our
plan first.
phases is to get a rendering here of a scope of possibly what it is, and then we could ask the public to come in and give us their thoughts and their opinions and their ideas on what they want to see, and then we take that information back and implement the things that are needed, and then go from there. And that point forward, grab as many applications on as many different grants as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But the impact fees, we have to spend those. What's the deadline for those to be spent?
We have probably about 3.5 years to get those used up.
Which is not that long, but we also
It's
need to
not
know where we're
what we
going,
wanna do.
right? So I think slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So we take a breath, figure out where we're going. Then to your point, once we know where we're going, as grant applications or anything pops up, boom, 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 we know we know exactly what we're going for rather than whack-a-mole.
Yes.
Hey, there's
That's
a grant
my whole
application.
idea of getting this guy to come in is
Yeah.
just to help get a path.
Yeah.
Because right now,
We need a North Star.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to definitely get the West also along with this part,
Yeah.
because the impact fees can be spent on West, and that would need to be ASAP.
Yeah.
We'll get that layout and then get the community in on that part.
And we have to be very clear when we,
Impact fees can also be used for special use park, brand new. Put it over in sector.
Is that if we replace the other part?
It's not
no,
replacing.
it's
So
not
we've-
replacing, it'd be in
In lieu of, we could add it to. But see, that's the scope where I want to get.
Yeah.
What land is needed for those two other events, and what is the importance of that? Maintaining that boundary, or do we adjust that boundary and say, here's what we're putting apart, and then go from there? Definitely not the fourth. The fourth is
Yeah.
the main thing, but we definitely, I think we need to look at where could we put that. We're not, an idea place is where we're going to store stuff for the water tower. And unfortunately, that we're 2 years away from being able to put anything there.
I mean, you're probably a year away from getting complete design and everything else, so.
Yes.
And by that time, they may be inside that plant working, and they won't have a lay down yard, that's only gonna be for prior to construction, where they're gonna lay down the buildings and the piping and all that. That's all they'll be using this side of the road.
Okay.
But you think that Viking festival has spread out, so it takes almost as much as 4th of July.
It's getting big. I was surprised. It's getting really big. That's the number of people coming.
I think that's all the more reason we want the men's club in the conversation, is they're
Mhm.
running those two. At the same time,
They don't do the Viking Fest.
they don't? Who does the
They don't
Viking
really.
Fest?
What's her name?
Nancy Bullet.
Yeah, Nancy.
The Villettes.
Okay, we may want them involved in it too, because I think it needs to be a partnership with all of those groups, but at the same time, we also don't want to let the tail wag the dog, right?
Mhm.
So
It's still the Village Bash Festival.
Well, and that's the 50 weeks out of the year.
Right.
And
Right.
that I go to, the 50 weeks out of the year where it can be used for many things.
Is there
So if we
more
have to
land over
reconfigure a
there
bit,
than here?
you know, we may just,
About
that
the
may be
same
part
as
of what
I
we all
mean,
have to
is
do
there any
together.
possibility to move that stuff over there? 4th of July, is there?
Been there for a lot of years, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
change, man.
Oh my God, you wanna start a river?
I just want to get away from my house so the kids don't bug me all the time going there.
There's a house for sale over on May if you want. Anyways, yeah. So the steps right now will be this gentleman's going to reach back out to you with that scope. We'll take a look at that if you could share it with us, and then we can decide to bring it to the council, the whole, and get their opinions.
Yeah. I think we probably should just put it on committee of the whole, put that on our next agenda.
To discuss that and go forward.
Hopefully you'll have some number back. Idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of what we need to ask.
All right. Anything else?
None for me.
I hear a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.